Hi, this is Vicky, also known as DragonflySoars. Today is Monday, January 26th, and it's about 6:30 at night. And Tiki's been pestering as soon as I started setting up. He's quite convinced this is his show, too. I will apologize in advance. My phone is on because best friend may text. So I might as well tell that story first since it has to do with the title of this episode. Normally I name the titles when I'm all done, but he hurt himself this weekend. He tweaked his back. Now he does martial arts and he did a forward roll, and that's when he noticed his back hurting, but he's not really sure that the roll really caused it. But it tightened up. He drove home about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and he was sore on Saturday, but he was okay. I mean, you know, every now and then he'd be sitting in a chair and he didn't feel real good and he'd stretch. He decided to go for a walk around the neighborhood because walking actually felt better than sitting. So he put some heat on it, took some ibuprofen. Then that was all fine. Sat in the chair that evening, and it tightened up before bed. And then Sunday, he couldn't get out of bed. And it took about 45 minutes to get him out of bed. And at that point, he was basically in tears. And then the pain was so bad that he went into shock. Felt like he was about to pass out. He was sweating. He threw up. At which point, you know, I finally convinced him that maybe we should go to the emergency room. So he's now on some, well, they gave him morphine there and some heavy dose anti-inflammatory and sent him home with some more meds. So he's under observation. Today he went to the chiropractor, who figured out that his hips were all twisted, adjusted him, and he has to go back tomorrow. In the meantime, he's not allowed to drive or anything. So he is currently at the school walking on the indoor track. Yesterday we walked an hour and a half on the indoor track because walking felt better and I couldn't let him be by himself. Today I'm trusting him to be by himself while I record. I'm going to go pick him up. The title came from me meeting his chiropractor for the first time and introducing myself to him as girlfriend, chauffeur, and drug dealer. I didn't put drug dealer in the title because I thought that might get me, you know, flagged all over the place. But, but it's because I'm the one watching over his medication and what he can take when and mix it, because it's hard enough sometimes to keep track when you have 3 different pills and they have different times, but then you add in foggy brain and I'll just take care of it. So, and his chiropractor thought this was really funny. Anyway, so the phone is on because he may text me from the indoor track if he needs me. Otherwise, I'm texting him when I'm done recording. So hopefully this won't be a real long episode because I need to go back and get him. But I do have stuff to show you. And tomorrow, he can't teach class and we have to go. We weren't planning on this. We were planning on moving this past weekend. We did none of that. So this, he has no clean laundry. He's all out of clothes. So we have to go to his house and do some stuff tomorrow night. So I couldn't record tomorrow either. So today it is. But, alright. First thing. Tangled myself up. Clue 8. There are 9 clues total for the K-Facet Afghan. Clue 8, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I wanted to kind of power through them. I was hoping to get all 7 done. And I ran into a little snag. This The orange is obviously the main, well, one of the main colors on here. And I realized that I had only 2 little balls left of the orange. Not enough to even finish that square, which had me kind of perplexed, and I was trying to figure out what I could do. And that made me nervous enough, and then I realized I need that same color on clue 9. I have a feeling that I must have another ball of this somewhere. Like I packed it thinking I would get much farther in my knitting than I actually did, or something like that, but we can't find it. Check suitcases, check project bags. I had no idea where it could be. And I had posted on the K-Facet thread on Ravelry and just said, at first I had just said, I wonder if I'm going to have enough to finish this square. And then I said, uh-oh, I just realized the last square also uses this color. Now, in the last square, you see where it's blue here? That's the orange on the last square. So it doesn't take a lot, but it sure takes more than what I have. But a very nice woman on Ravelry sent me a message and said, I have papaya. That's what this color is. I have papaya. If you send me your address, I will mail it to you. And I asked if she wanted me to pay for any of it or cover shipping, and she said nope. She said 30 grams of papaya are coming your way, and 30 grams will be enough to finish my square. 30 grams plus what I have, which is about 8 grams, will be enough to finish. I'm sorry, Tigger just nosed his way under my sweater and started licking my belly. Okay, that's just weird. Hi. Anyway, so that will be plenty to finish the last square and do the other squares. I may actually start doing the next set of squares because I do have, I don't know where the other one went. It must be, oh, here it is. I do have enough here to do that little bit. So I could start the next color square, but I've been working on something else. So, just a second. Okay. I also have been working on some hot pads. Now, these are for a friend of mine, and I bought 3 colors of sugar and cream that would go together but not be the same. So the first one I did is kind of the slow striping. The next one is speckled. So, and the next one should have big stripes. I have a picture of all 3 balls next to each other. But I thought this was a cool pattern. Now, this pattern is called the Double Thick Diagonal Hot Pad. And as you see, here's the center line. You flip it over, here's the other center line. And it is double thick. So, you can use it for a hot pad, for a trivet, it should be thick enough. Now, the cool thing is, what you do is this is crocheted, you crochet a chain, and then you go around one side of the loops of the chain and around the other side of the loops of the chain, adding, an extra couple stitches on the very ends. And then you just keep going round and round and round. It basically looks like you're making a flat envelope. But that's not how it's constructed. When you're all done, you actually fold it this way. So there's my chain. This is my flat envelope. Bring these corners together, and this one's almost ready to do. And I will stitch up that edge. And then I started this one yesterday, and it's that far. And I start this one Sunday, I think. Saturday, Sunday. I don't know. Well, yesterday was Sunday. I finished this one yesterday. I started it Saturday. So, they don't take super long, but I think she'll like them. It's kind of a delayed Christmas present because I haven't seen her. So, and Mom asked about putting hooks on them. I did see a couple where it looked like the person knitting it actually made a, before sealing it, knit an I-cord loop and then seamed it up. I think that's what they did. I didn't make loops for these because the person who I'm giving them to has made me fabric hot pads before, and she didn't put loops on them, so I'm thinking she doesn't use loops. I think she just keeps them in a drawer. So, I didn't worry about it. We can always add loops later if we want to. Alright, I'm going to pause again. Alright, so I want to finish that one and the last one, and then I will start working on squares again. Depending on whether the extra 30 grams has come my way, we'll decide which square I do next. The hot pad I just showed you. You do your chain, and then you just go around and around. There's no increasing, or no increasing, no decreasing. I found it on this website, and it's on Ravelry. I'll link it. And it came with a really great picture tutorial. There were so many pictures and instructions, I thought it was going to be complicated. So I printed the whole thing, only to realize that it was not complicated at all. And the person who posted it originally said it was one of those kind of patterns that was passed on from one person to another person to another person, and they just finally put a picture tutorial up because people had been asking about it. So, anyway, so the white one is almost done. It'll easily get done tonight. It only needs 2, maybe 3 more rounds, and then get seamed up. Oh, now those are the things I'm working on. I'm trying to I really want to get this, at least the squares done and all blocked soon, because I signed up for another mystery Afghan. But this one I'm hoping will be better, because it is done by Yarnspirations, which are the people that make Bernat and Simply Soft and a bunch of other things. I think they do patents too, but I'm not positive. They are doing a 2015 mystery crochet along or knit along. The crochet along is made out of Simply Soft, and it is co-sponsored by the Crochet Crowd. Now, I had never heard of the Crochet Crowd. Mikey is a crocheter, and with his partner Dan, they develop a YouTube channel all about crocheting called the Crochet Crowd. And not only do they do challenges and put up patterns, but a lot of times they do them they put up a right-handed video and a left-handed video. And they are co-sponsoring the crochet portion of the Mystery Knit Along. And they absolutely promise that as you go along, your skills will be building, that it will start out simple and then progress into different things. It starts February 10th and will go for 1 clue a week for 10 weeks. Crochet is faster than knitting, so I'm not worried about keeping up. At least for me, crochet is faster than knitting. I mean, obviously I finished those squares, easily in a day. I mean, I worked today and I still managed to finish a square versus these. And all the things will be different, unlike these. So, and it won't, I I think it'll be fun. And even though best friend and I had talked about not bringing a whole lot more in, he even agreed, and he helped me pick out colors for yarn for our house, because this is very me, not very him. And so he got to help pick out colors for the other one because it's a little more him, but a little more me. We picked a dark aqua, a dark purple, a dark fuchsia pink, and then gray. Actually, we picked a dark green, but they ran out of my dark teal when I ordered. And so I went to Joann Fabrics and found it there and happened to see the dark green and went, oh, I didn't like the colors together. So, and he had really wanted to put a gray in, and I didn't see, there wasn't a gray where I ordered from, but there was gray at Joann Fabrics. So we added a gray in, I think. The yarn should be, the rest of the, I picked up some of the yarn at Joann Fabrics, and some of the yarn is on its way here, and when it comes in, I'll take pictures. So, but that'll start February 10th, so I really want to have these at least blacked. You're supposed to mattress stitch them together. I'm thinking I might actually slip stitch crochet, and I have, I don't know how well you can see it, but the blue here, the turquoise blue color, I have a whole bunch of that. I bought extra for doing the border and the seaming. So I might actually do a crochet accent seaming instead of a mattress stitch. Now the mattress stitch is supposed to be so it's invisible. I'm going to do mine as an accent. I think. I'm going to see how it looks. Again, the nice thing about crochet is it goes fairly fast, so if I don't like it, I'll just take it apart and do something different. That's one of the nice things about knitting and crocheting in general, is if you really don't like it, you can usually take it apart. Usually. Mom just did a shawl made out of a mohair mohair something. I want to say mohair acrylic and silk. I don't remember. But the mohair was very, very grabby, and she said it was kind of hard to undo if you made a mistake. But she did finish it, and the finished shawl looks beautiful, so I might as well post that picture here. Alright, now, one of the things that came up with the shawl was the fact that it was charted, and it happens that KPAR62 put on the what do you want me to share thread a question about charts, and I had told you I would do that this week, and Mom had made the comment that she struggles with charts because she just wants to read and see what to do next. So I'm going to read the initial question. I would love to know how you became so good at chart reading for following lace patterns. I get all turned around when I try to use a chart. I learned to knit from written instructions, not charts, and I haven't been successful in trying to transition over. I was going to put together a video about how to read a chart. But frankly, Tina of the Knitting Blooms podcast already put together a fabulous video on how to read charts. It went with one of her shawls that she did last summer, I believe. I will link it in the show notes and put it on the Ravelry page. It's fabulous. You don't need me to do a video about how to read charts. But I did want to bring up a few things. Now, how did I get good at reading charts? I started with simple charts. My first shawl with a chart, let's see if I can get this off. Just a second, I'm going to pause so I can get this shawl down. Alright, my first shawl with a chart was the Exonumist shawl, which I might be pronouncing wrong, but it was by Wendy Knits, also known as Wendy Johnson. It is this lovely shawl. Now you can see that there is a section here, and then there's a section here, and then another charted section, and then another one. There are very clearly different sections in this chart, in this shawl, but each one is actually not very complex. I don't want to show everything, but I picked this one as my first lace shawl because the charts were so small and simple. This is chart A. That was the first chart. Now, the other thing is, start your lace charts where you only have a right side row. And this, either where you do lace one direction and the other direction is straight purl or knit back, or in the case of a circular shawl, it's a lace row and then a knit row and then a lace row and then a knit row. It's much easier. The whole flipping back and forth, that gets complicated. So if you're starting out with a brand new one, I say you don't do one where it has lace on the right side and the wrong side. I have done them. I wouldn't recommend it at all for a first one. This shawl, I would totally recommend. That was the first chart. Now, there is a sheet that comes with the pattern, obviously, that says what the symbols mean. But one of the things to realize is that the symbols usually, not always, not if you get something from a foreign country or something really old, but usually these days the symbols look like what they should be. The O's are yarn overs. You're making a hole. The slants, where it's taking, in this case it's taking 2 and saying and slant it, that means you're making a slanted decrease. You're taking 2 stitches into one and you are slanting it, in this case, this way. So that would be a slip knit. It is very good to learn which decrease is your slip knit and which one is your knit 2 together. I'm going to try and do this real quick. I learned a mnemonic for this. The knit 2 together goes this way and the slip knit goes this way. If you were reading the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, K comes before N, O, P, Q, R, S. So K, the slant this way, comes before the slant this way. Now some people go, well, what about this? Well, that's just uncomfortable. You don't want to hold your hands that way. Hold your hands this way, knit 2 together, slip knit. That's the way they slant. Now, what I like about charts is you can see right away all these yarn overs should be stacking. All the decreases should be stacking. I struggle with written directions, especially if you're doing complicated lace, because I lose my place in it and I can't glance down and go, oh yeah, I just did that yarn over, so I'm finishing out my row. I can't do that. I have to sit there and then count and go, okay, and compare my text to my knitting and go back and forth, and I lose my place and it drives me absolutely crazy. So for me, charts help me visually understand what's going on. The next chart here, and I can't show you all her charts, but the next chart here happens to have a different kind of decrease that has 3 prongs. That would be 3 stitches going into one. And again, it has a slant to tell you which one it is. In this case, it's a slip knit. It's a slip knit. It's a 3. I like being able to look at a chart and glance over. I can read my knitting. I know that these stitches should be above these stitches. I can't do that with text. With text, I can never tell which stitches should be lined up with what stitches from the previous row. So, a few things I do to make chart reading easier. Make it bigger. This is really actually too small. I would take this and either, well, I would probably copy it from the screen and then put it in like a Word document and just increase the size and print it out again. Or get a magnifying glass. Or you can, if you have something in a book, take it to someplace like Kinko's. You can usually make one copy enlarged because it's for personal use. You're not making copies to distribute. You're making copies for personal use. But make it bigger. Or if you have something like an iPad, you know, use something like Knit Companion where you can, or Goodreader, where you can make the charts bigger on the screen. Being able to see the chart will help a lot. The next thing is to figure out a way to highlight your row. Now, if I'm using paper ones, I put a Post-it note over the top of the row, right above the row I'm working on. Why not the bottom? Because I want to see what my stitches are building upon so that I can read my knitting. Again, in most charts these days will have pretty standard chart legends. Not all of them. Some of them where this one has the 2 prongs into a slant. Some of them will just do the slant. I think part of that is because people will create their charts in something like Excel or Word, and that's you just use a slash from the keyboard. You don't have to do a funky stitch. But most of the time it's like this. Now I have some where the legend makes no sense whatsoever. There's a weird letter B and it means a decrease, and it's because the chart was, I can't remember. I think it was originally Finnish, and the word that that the B represents means nothing to me because I don't speak Finnish. So that one, when I eventually do it, I'm going to have to redo the chart into something that makes sense to me. If you see a square that is blacked out and it says no stitch, it may not even say it, but most of the time it'll say no stitch. It truly means no stitch. It just means that in order for the graph to line up, because your graph needs to be square, and perhaps you did some decreases, it's just placeholders because the graph needed something to do. It's literally do nothing, just move on to the next step. That one tends to throw people. They think, should I slip it? No. It means nothing at all. Skip that square, move on to the next stitch. And when you're doing something like this, you know, this is a 6 row or 6 stitch repeat. Put stitch markers every 6 stitches. Maybe for one this small you could do it every 12. But put them at a reasonable place so that then when you do the next row, which is called a rest row because it's just straight knitting, you can count and make sure, did I have all 6 stitches? And if you don't, first look on either side of your marker and see if one of the other ones stole a stitch. Sometimes they'll slip on the stitch markers. If one of your stitches just moved, just flip it back. It's fine. Otherwise, you can say, oh, I missed a yarn over. You can pick up a yarn over between 2 stitches. You don't have to rip back. Just pick up a yarn over. If you missed a decrease, you have too many stitches, you can pull out those 2 stitches and do your decrease and fix it right there. Part of that is, you know, how to fix mistakes in knitting. You don't need to rip all the way back, but it's much easier to find it when you're only looking at, okay, did I do these 6 stitches correctly? Yep. Next one, did I do these 6 stitches correctly? Now, again, like I said, you may want to make, for something this small, you may want to say 12 or 18 is reasonable. But when I did the Even Star Shawl, I had stitch markers everywhere. And I know people that don't. There are people who are purist and say, oh, well, I can read my knitting. I don't need to do that. I can read my knitting too, but I get distracted watching TV or something like that, or the phone rings, or the cat climbs up on me. So I'd rather have the stitch markers and know I only need to worry about the last little section I did. You know, or you set it down at some point. Just, it's fine. Again, and basically, I started with one that was small. I did some socks that had lace knitting because even if I mess it up, who cares? They're on my feet. Just start small. Start with lace that only goes one direction. When you start doing two directions, it gets a little more, it does kind of wobble your brain a little. And the same idea for doing cables and things like that. It gets easier. Start small. So, if the question is, how did I get good at it? Starting small, practice, stitch markers. Alright, if it's how to do it, watch Tina's video. And I think that finishes off that, what do you want me to share? I'm going to look real quick. There was a, I know there was a new charity posted. Oh, actually, 2 new charities. To Nandy, who has been very sweet lately, sending me messages and helping me gain my confidence. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. Totally not to do with the charities. But the one thing with Best Friend and his back, his truck was blocking in my car. Now, his truck is a Dodge Dakota. It's a bigger truck than I've ever driven. And even though I used to drive stick all the time, I haven't driven it in a while. The last time I drove stick was after Dad died, and I took Dad's car to go pick up Tiff when she got stuck at the Chicago airport because my car was still in Milwaukee. Anyway, his truck was in the way, and since Best Friend's back hurt, climbing in the truck was easier than lowering himself into the either of the cars. So I got to drive his truck, which has been intimidating me forever because I don't really like driving other people's cars. And it was the truck, and it's much bigger than I'm used to dealing with. But I did fine. I drove it 4 times. Now, granted, I mean, they were short trips, but I drove it 4 times with him in the car, and I didn't hurt his truck. And I'm no longer scared of his truck, which means I won't be scared of my bike either eventually. So, and the reason I brought that up is because Nandy really wrote me some nice messages about my bicycle. But she posted that right now, the Geeky Girls Knit podcast has been having a winter knit-along that gives 2 entries for anything that you're knitting for charity. So if you can post anything you want for the winter knit-along as long as it falls in their guidelines and you can say why it's part of winter, including you knitted in winter. But if it's a charity item, you can enter it a second time. That ends on February 28th, so today's the 26th, but it's on here. Crow Julie, who knits hundreds of hats for Click for Babies, posted about Click for Babies. She said, my big charity project is making baby hats for Click for Babies. I try and encourage every knitter crocheter I know to participate. Click for Babies is a group that collects and distributes purple baby hats to hospitals to raise awareness for purple crying. When the baby is born, the parents are given a purple baby hat with some info, a video, pamphlet, whatever that hospital does on purple crying and how to respond to the periods of seemingly endless crying. And she has the website. KPAR62, who does tons of charity things, said there's also the Linus Project. They collect all sorts of sizes of blankets and pass them to mostly kids in need. I know they have a website that gives all the specs. In my area, I can drop off at Joann's or one of the Walmarts. I generally crochet these so they can hold up longer. They will take knitted, crocheted, sewn, or tied. So those were the charities mentioned. And I think... Oh! Okay, that's everything for that, but I have 2 more things to tell you. One, Karen of Round the Twist posted a new episode. I have missed her episodes. She was one of the few that I used to make a point of going on YouTube and watching. I am terrible YouTube watcher, but I used to always make a point of going and watching Karen. And she posted a new episode for the first time with the babies in the new house. So go check it out. If you're like, it fell off my Downcast, did not pick it up, but I happened to be cleaning up my Ravelry boards, and I was actually going to delete that one, and then saw new episode. And then I sent a message to Tiff, and she had already seen it, but she didn't tell me. But I was very excited. And at Christmas time, Tiff showed you the pieces of a sweater she was working on, the Jackaroo, I believe it's called. And she finished it, so I'm going to show at the end of this the pieces and her finished sweater. She has a picture of it, you know, one of those bathroom selfies. But it looks really nice on her. So I'm going to post those at the end. And I think that's everything. So I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to text best friend and tell him he can leave his play date if he wants to. I was teasing him because I felt when I dropped him off and said, I'll see you later, like I was dropping him off or something, and he kind of felt the same way, so it was just silly. And then we were teasing each other. I was telling him to be good and play nice with the other kids, and I don't want to call from the school. So he was laughing. He had a huge grin on his face because we just razz each other. I was razzing him yesterday because he was doing something, and I told him to be nice because I know where he hurts and I have all the meds. And he's going, okay. But no, it's good, and I'm glad if he was going to hurt himself, he was here because I could take him over and take care of him. So, all right, until next week. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.